morning everyone. Today in this session let us start the unit 2, that is knowledge, representation and reasoning. So in this we are going to discuss about knowledge based agent, propositional logic, inference, predicate logic, which is also called as the first order logic, and then the resolution. So let us discuss first what is knowledge based agent. So an intelligent agent needs knowledge about the real world for taking decisions and reasoning to act effectively. And coming to the knowledge based agents are those agents who have the capability of maintaining an internal state of knowledge and reasoning over that knowledge and update their knowledge after observations and take actions accordingly. And these agents represents the world with some formal representations and act intelligently. And coming to this knowledge based agents, these knowledge based agents composed of two main parts. One is the knowledge base and inference system. This knowledge base is also called as the KB, and it is the central component of the knowledge based agent. And knowledge based agent must able to be do following, that is, it should be able to represent states, actions, and it should be able to incorporate new percepts, and it should update the internal states, and it should deduce the internal representation of the world, and it should deduce the appropriate actions accordingly. And coming to the architecture of knowledge based agent, so this is the architecture where we have two important components, that is inference engine and knowledge base, and this total thing is called as the KBA. And here this inference engine, the knowledge based agent pursues the information from environment, and that inference engine will share the knowledge with the knowledge base, and whatever the updations is then that is being done in the knowledge base. So let us see this point by point. So KBA takes input from the environment by perceiving the environment, and the input taken by the inference engine, which also communicate with KB. Here we can see here it also communicates with the KB to decide as per the knowledge stored in KB. And the learning element of KB regularly updates the KB by learning new knowledge. I already told you that KB is the central component of a knowledge based agent. It also called as KB. It is a collection of sentences. Here the sentences are nothing but which are expressed in a language which is called a knowledge representation language, and it stores the facts about the real world. And coming to the inference system, inference means deriving new sentences from the old. That is, it allows us to add a new sentence to the knowledge base. And here a sentence is nothing but the proposition about the world, and it applies logical rules to the KB to deduce the new information. Inference system generates new facts so that an agent can update the KB, and it has mainly two rules, that is, one is forward chaining, one is the backward chaining. And coming to the approaches, we need to follow some approaches to design a knowledge based agent, that is declarative approach and the procedural approach. So what do you mean by this declarative approach? Here we are going to create a KBA, that is knowledge based agent, just by initializing with an empty knowledge and telling the agent all sentences with which we want to start with. So that approach generally we call it as the declarative approach. And coming to the procedural approach, as the name itself indicates, okay, here directly we are going to encode the behavior as in the form of a program, which means we are going to write a program that already encodes the desired behavior of an agent. So these are the two approaches generally we follow for designing a knowledge based agent. And what is this knowledge representation, which is very important thing in this unit 2. So we know that humans are best at understanding, reasoning and interpreting knowledge, and we know things, humans know things which is knowledge, and as per their knowledge they perform various actions in the real world. But how machines do all these things, that comes under knowledge representation and reasoning. So here hence we can describe this knowledge representation as knowledge representation and reasoning is the part of artificial intelligence which is concerned with agents thinking and how this thinking contributes to intelligent behavior of agents. This is what we call it as the knowledge representation and reasoning. And to make this knowledge representation, we have to feed some of the different kinds of knowledge to the KBA, and these are the things. First one is objects, that is all the facts about object in our world domain we have to give to the knowledge based agent. and then events, what action which occur that we have to feed. Then performance, it describes behavior which involves knowledge about how to do things. Then meta knowledge, it is knowledge about the knowledge. Then facts, facts are the nothing but the truths of the real world. Then the important part KB, which is the knowledge base, central component of the knowledge based agent, and it is nothing but a group of sentences. So these are the some of the kinds of knowledge which we can represent for an AI system. And coming to the types of knowledge, okay, we have, these are the 5 different types of knowledge. One is declarative, heuristic, meta, procedural, and the structural knowledge. So we see here the declarative knowledge is nothing but to know about something, that maybe it may include concepts, facts, and the objects. And then coming to the heuristic knowledge, that itself rule of thumb based on the previous experiences. Then meta knowledge, we know that it is knowledge about knowledge. And then coming to the procedural knowledge, that is which is responsible for knowing how to do things. And then the structural language, it is the just the basic knowledge to problem solving. So these are the types of knowledge we can give for a particular knowledge based agent. And coming to the AI knowledge cycle, so this is the representation of AI knowledge cycle, okay, and this diagram shows that how an AI system can interact with the real world and what components helps it to show the intelligence. So first one is the perception component, by which it retrieves information from its environment, and that input may be in the form of a visual, audio, or any other form of sensory input. And then next, the learning component is responsible for learning the data captured by perception component. Okay, and in the complete cycle, the main components are knowledge representation and reasoning. Okay, these 2 components are involved in showing the intelligence in machine-like humans. Even though these 2 components are independent to each other, but also coupled together. So the planning and execution depend on the analysis of knowledge representation and reasoning. So this is how an AI knowledge cycle works. And the 2 important components are knowledge representation and reasoning. And let us discuss the next concept, that is approaches to knowledge representation. There are 3 approaches. One is the simple relational knowledge. We know that relational knowledge we already studied in database. That is, it is, see, this approach of knowledge representation is famous in database system, where the relationship between different entities is represented. And for inference, this approach has little opportunity for inference. That is, for storing facts, which uses the relational method, and each fact about a set of the object is also set out systematically in columns. So to represent in that structural knowledge, we use this simple relational knowledge. Next one is inheritable knowledge. We know that about the inheritance. That is, we are going to, child is going to inherit the properties from the parent. That is what here. So all data must be stored into a hierarchy of classes like this. Okay. So in this approach, we simply apply the inheritance property, and elements inherit values from the other members of a class. Same like earlier programming language, the same concept over here, this inheritable knowledge. And the next one here is inferential knowledge. So this approach, okay, will be in the form of formal logics. That is, this is used to derive more facts, and it definitely guarantees the correctness. See here, let us take 2 statements. That is, Marcus is a man and all men are mortal. So once a knowledge-based agent is having an inferent knowledge, it has to conclude that when Marcus is a man and all men are mortal, yes, definitely Marcus is mortal. In that way, and the representation is something like this. These representations we are going to study when we discuss about the predicate logic or first order logic. And next, procedural knowledge. It uses small programs and codes which describes how to do specific things, and mainly here is we are going to use one rule, that if then rule. That's it about this procedural knowledge. Okay. And then coming to the techniques of this knowledge representation, we have 4 techniques. One is logical, semantic, production rules and the frames representation. And coming to the logical representation, it's nothing but drawing a conclusion based on the various conditions, and we are going to have a syntax and semantics which supports the inference. We know that syntax are the rules which decide how we can construct legal sentences in the logic, and coming to the semantics are the rules which we can interpret the sentences in the logic. That means it is going to assign a meaning to each sentence. Okay? Symbolic representation is what the syntax, and for that symbolic representation the meaning is given by the semantics. Okay, and in this representation mainly we are going to discuss about the propositional logic and predicate logic. These two topics I am going to take it as separate to two classes. One class will discuss about the propositional logic, and another class let us discuss about the predicate logic. And coming to this advantages and disadvantages, even though we have 4 different techniques, each technique has its own advantages and disadvantages. And coming to this logical representation, it enables us to do logical reasoning and its basis for the programming languages. But coming to the disadvantages, it has some restrictions and sometimes it may challenge to work with. And these techniques may not be very natural, and sometimes inferences may not be so efficient. That is what the disadvantage with this logical representation. And then coming to the semantic network, so as the name itself indicates, networks, it is representation of a network. That is, it's an alternative of predicate logic for knowledge representation, and we are going to represent our knowledge in the form of graphical networks. So generally we know that a network consists of nodes representing the objects and arcs or edges, which describes the relationship between those two objects. So this representation may have mainly 2 types of relations. One is easy relation, that is also called as inheritance, and kind of relations. Let us see one example here. So see this one, these are the given statements, like Jerry is a cat, mammal, it is owned by Priya, Jerry is white colored, and all mammals are animal. And these particular statements, an agent should be represented in the form of a semantic network. So how it is going to be represented is, here each and everything, these thing will be represented as a node, and this sentence is represented as a edge between those 2 nodes. See here, Jerry is a cat and Jerry is a mammal. So that cat is a mammal and all mammals are animals. So mammal is a animal. In this way represents. And Jerry is owned by Priya and Jerry is colored white. So in this diagram we have represented the different types of knowledge in the form of nodes and arcs. So each object is connected with another object by some relation. That is what the representation of this semantic networks. And coming to the advantages and this disadvantages, generally the main advantage is natural representation of knowledge and conveys the meaning in a transparent manner, and these networks are simple and can be easily understood. But coming to this one of the disadvantages, these networks takes more computational time. Why? Because we have to traverse the complete network. Only if it is in the above diagram we have only 5 sentences, maybe it takes less computational time. But if we have n number of sentences, so to traverse the network there may be a chance that more computational time it may require. Okay. Then the next representation is frame representation. So a frame is nothing but a record-like structure which consists of collection of attributes and its values to describe an entity in the real world. So frames in the AI data structure which divides the knowledge into substructures by representing stereotype situations. So let us see that what is that. Mainly it consists of collection of slots and slot values, and these slot values have names and the values which are called as the facets. So what do you mean by these facets? So the various aspects of this particular slot is known as the facets. Okay. Let us see with one example how the representation of a particular frame will be. Suppose we want to describe a frame for a particular book. Suppose here is the frame for a book. So I already told you, for a frame we have 2 attributes. One is slots, one is filters or facets also we can say. So if you take a example of a particular book, we know that what are the main components or main attributes of a particular book. Maybe it is title, author, ISN number, and which year it is published. These are some of the important attributes for a particular frame. So in that way, see here, we have a title, genre it is computer science, author, edition, and then in which year it's been published, and how many number of pages. Likewise, how much information a particular book is having, that whole information you can store it in the form of like this. So this representation is called as a frame representation. This is one way to represent the knowledge. Okay. This is other about, you can see here, we are talking about an entity named called Peter. He is doctor as a profession and his age is at 25. He lives in city London and the country is England. So this is the information is given. So an agent should represent his knowledge in the form of a frame. Then that particular agent is going to give record like structure using a frame in this way. You can see name, profession, age, marital status, and particular weight of a person. Means whatever the agent knows about that particular person, he is going to give. He is going to represent the knowledge in this form. And this advantages. So frame representation makes the programmer easier by grouping the related data, and it is easy to add slots for new attribute and relations. Okay, and default data also we can include, and no need to search for missing values. Okay, and it is easy to understand and visualize also. But coming to the disadvantages for this frame representation, inference mechanism is not easily processed. That is, if you want to deduce new information from already the existing information, sometimes it may be difficult to give, the frame representation may not give the new inference methods. Okay, that is what the disadvantage with this frame representation. And the last one is production rules. Okay, production rules, nothing but it is like a condition action pairs, means if condition then action. Okay, in that way it will process. So it has mainly three parts, that is the set of production rules, working memory, and the recognizing act cycle. Okay, so here let us discuss directly with one example. So here how this particular production rule works is, I already told you, it is like a condition and action. So suppose an agent, we want to give some rules to the agent. How that rules will be, if at a bus stop and bus arrives, then what agent has to take the action? Then the action is just get into the bus. In that way we are going to frame a rule. Second, come, if on the bus and paid and empty seat, then what agent has to take? Then he has to take the action, sit down. Then if on bus and unpaid, then action, you have to pay the charge. Then if bus arrives at destination, then agent what action he has to take? Just get down from the bus. So this is how the production rule works. So this is what the this advantages. The very main advantage of this is we can express in a natural language which an agent can easily understand. Okay, and it is very modular, that we can easily remove, add or modify any individual rule accordingly. This is what the advantage of this production rule. Okay, so this is all about the just introduction to the knowledge based agent. We have seen what are the approaches, what are the techniques, and different types of knowledge we can give it to a particular knowledge based agent. So in the next class, let us discuss one more example of how knowledge based agent works. Thank you.